This is Bali. We're going to do the anatomical features. We're going to start with the skull. We got the incisive bone, which is right here. And then we have the nasal bone, which is here. And then the maxilla, which is the top jaw. And the temporal bone, which is basically right here. The external auditory medius would be the opening of the ear canal. The frontal bone we have right here, and the frontal sinuses basically there, and the parietal bone is just behind the frontal bone. The mandible, which is the bottom jaw, and then it just runs along the bottom, and then we got the ramus that comes to a curve. The temporal mandibular joint is just behind the ramus there. The occipital bone, just the top bone of the head there. And then the nasal turbinates can be found just here for the nasal passages. And then the vertebrae. So we have the cervical, which is here, so the atlas, and then the axis, C1, C2, and then the thoracic spine, which is here, and then the dorsal spinous processes, you just feel along the top here, and then the transverse, you would feel along the side there, and then the lumbar, same with the dorsal spinous processes here, and then the transverse processes there as well. Then we got the sacral, and then the coccygeal, which would be the tail, and then the ribs are along here, and the sternum, which is the under part there. The manubrium is the top, kind of where the thoracic inlet is, and then the xiphoid process is at the back at the end of the sternum, and then the costochondral junction would be where the ribs, I guess, turn into cartilage and attach to the sternum. And there are 13 ribs in a dog and a cat. Now we're going to do the thoracic limb. So we have the scapula that runs along this way, and then we have the spine of the scapula that just goes down the middle of the scapula, and then the humerus, which is this bone right here, and the greater tubercle is just the point of the humerus there, and then the radius and the ulna, and then we got the olecranon process right here, the carpus, and then the metacarpal bones. There's 5 for a dog and a cat, which includes the dew claw, and then there's 5 digits, and the smaller bones make up the digits. So there's the proximal, middle, and then the distal for each. We have the pelvis, so we have the ilium, and then the wings of the ilium, and then the ischium runs along here, and then the ischial tuberosity are the 2 bones palpated in the back here, and the pubis is the base of the pelvis, and then the acetabulum is where the femoral head sits inside the socket there, and then the obturator foramen are the large spacing in the pelvis, the large openings, and then we got the femur here, and then the greater trochanter, so it's lateral from the femoral head, and then the head of the femur sits within the acetabulum, and then we got the patella, which is here, and then the tibia, fibula here. The tibial tuberosity is going to be the point right here. And the tibial crest is the curve there. And then we have the tarsus and then the calcaneus, and then the metatarsal bones. So there's 4 or 5 depending on the breed of the animal, and then there's also 4 or 5 digits in the hind limb, also depending. And then the lymph nodes. So we have the popliteal lymph nodes, which are in the back limbs here, and then the parotid, which are up kind of behind the ears, and then the mandibular lymph nodes are under the mandible. The inguinal is going to be up in here in the inguinal region, then the axillary, which is in the armpit, and then the prescapular lymph nodes are in front of the scapula.